Mr. Brian Hook, U.S. Special Representative for Iran and Senior Policy Advisor to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, you are most welcome on Saudi 24. My first question is about King Salman and President Trump. They reaffirm the strengths of the defense partnership between the two countries. Can you elaborate more about this issue?
Well, this continues what President Trump started 3 years ago when, as president, his first trip overseas was to the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And I think over the last 3 years, we have done a lot together. I think the partnership is as strong as it can be, I think at all levels. I work regularly with Prince Khalid bin Salman. I also have had a number of chances to visit the kingdom, traveling with the secretary, but also with Jared Kushner. And we're going to continue to work together. I think when you look at the threats that Saudi Arabia is presented with around the region, these are the same threats that we want to counter. And Saudi is on the front lines of Iranian aggression. Mm-hmm. And we're doing everything we can together to reverse Iran's power projection and to get the regime to be at peace with its neighbors.
You said before the relationship with Saudi Arabia is a matter of security. So how you explain the reducing presence of military issue of America in the kingdom? How can you explain that?
Well, when you look at the enhanced force posture that we've done, I think there's no question that we're very focused on Saudi's security. Starting in May of last year, we started moving a lot of troops into the region, 14,000 troops, and reopening the Prince Sultan Air Base and helping Saudi with air defense. Our force posture goes up and down. That's sort of typical. But the mission set has not changed at all. And I think some people, especially critics who don't like our policy, were drawing the wrong conclusions. We're very committed to Saudi's security, to the security in the region, to the safety and security of American troops that are in Saudi and in the region, and that work will continue.
Mr. Hook, after the drop price of oil and the coronavirus affecting the global economy, what do you think can be the strategy between Saudi Arabia and USA to face this crisis and to build a big relationship economically wise?
Well, I would say that the Crown Prince, with his Vision 2030, is doing what he can to diversify Saudi's economy so that it isn't reliant to the degree that it currently is on energy. And I think he's put forward a very good and bold vision for economic diversity. This is not just a problem limited to Saudi Arabia. This is a global problem. We've had a demand shock that has sent ripples around the world economically. We're feeling it here in the United States. I don't think anyone is immune from it. And I think President Trump has been working with the King and with the Crown Prince to work through a very difficult time for the energy sector around the world.
Mr. Hook, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said that the relationship, that America is a key ally of Saudi Arabia in combating terrorism. Can you give us some your point of view on the common joint coordination in this field?
Well, if you remember when President Trump visited the kingdom, I was on that trip, and that's when he did a ribbon cutting ceremony at the center that Saudi Arabia launched, a new center to combat extremism. And that work is continuing to the present day. And this is something which I know that the Crown Prince is very focused on. We do need to do more to combat extremism, which has caused so much suffering for people around the region. I'm remembering President Trump's speech in Riyadh, where he gave a statistic talking about the victims of Islamist terrorism, and the vast majority of them are Muslims themselves. And this problem of extremism, President Trump called on countries in the region to root it out and do everything that we can to stop it.
Mr. Hook, Iran agreed to hand over the hostages, American hostages, with no condition. What are the upcoming expected scenario? Is it more confrontation or negotiation?
Well, we were, in spite of the tensions bilaterally between the United States and the government in Tehran, back in November, we were able to successfully execute a prisoner exchange. Iran has a number of Americans that are wrongfully detained inside of Iran. I work on a daily basis with the Swiss ambassador in Iran to free the remaining Americans that are there. You mentioned Iran's proposal to do an all-for-all swap. That's not that's not something which I can comment on because we don't conduct sensitive diplomacy involving detainees through the media. But I do have as a priority to try and win the release of those Americans that are still wrongfully detained. That includes the Namazis. It also includes Murad Tabaz, Michael White, and for the return of Bob Levinson.
Mm-hmm. And what about the Iran is continuing the nuclear program? Has the United States been able to guarantee the arms embargo after abolishing the Iranian nuclear agreement?
Well, you're right. Iran has violated the commitments made under the Iran nuclear deal many times. And we watch very closely. The last thing the Middle East needs is an arms race that's launched by the Islamic Republic of Iran. So we watch Iran's nuclear breakout cycle very closely. The other thing that we're watching is under the Iran nuclear deal, as I mentioned, the arms embargo on the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism is going to expire in about 5 months. We're only a few months away from this happening. And so we have started our diplomacy. We have drafted a resolution for the UN Security Council. I've been working very closely with Prince Khalid bin Salman on this, and with other countries in the region. We do need to pass a resolution that extends the arms embargo on Iran. We do not need Iran to be purchasing weapons, conventional weapons, that they could then use to attack Saudi Arabia. So we're very serious about this. We have to extend this arms embargo.
How do you think that United States of America can support the presidency of Saudi Arabia of G20?
Well, you're right. Saudi has been the president of the G20. It's a very tough year to be taking that leadership role, given what's happening with the COVID pandemic. But I think Saudi has done a very good job of leading the G20, and they'll continue that work. G20 is not specifically in my portfolio, but I have been monitoring it here and there.
Mr. Brian Hook, I thank you a lot for your presence with us. Thank you indeed.
Thank you for having me on.